What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Facemask Fantasy, the first official Thursday night football game of the season, week 2, between the Bills and the Dolphins, only on Prime Video, coming up here in about 2 hours' time, taking you right up to kickoff. We'll go over the latest injury news, and of course, we can talk about potential start-sit options for this game. Obviously, there are some must starts. There is, of course, the Dolphins' backfield situation to work through, and then any potential ancillary options for your flex. So we'll get into all of that. And then, of course, I will take any questions in the chat. Start-sit questions that pertain to the weekend will be held most likely until Saturday and Sunday. But if you have start-sit questions that pertain to this game this evening, we can talk shop on that. Members will get first priority as far as answers to their questions, and then I will get to everybody else. That is a perk of being a member of the channel. What's going on, Greg? Happy Thursday to you as well. What's going on, Rojo? Good to see you. And then I get to everybody else. We'll start with the game tonight between the Bills and the Dolphins. The obvious question mark is who is suiting up at running back for Miami. The latest reports are that the Dolphins are optimistic that Devon Achane will play tonight. He went through practice on Wednesday in a limited fashion. He is expected to test out prior to kickoff tonight to see how he's doing, to see how he's feeling, with the optimism that he can suit up and can give it a go, having practiced yesterday. So Achane should be good. If his role is limited, that is something that we have to potentially take into account. But this is Devon Achane we're talking about. He's got top 5 upside any given week, even on a short week, dealing with an injury, nursing an injury. You are starting Devon Achane, and you are just hoping for the best. He's one of those guys that you don't take out of your lineup. You do not take him out of your lineup. You roll with Devon Achane, especially with Raheem Mostert out for this game. Jeff Wilson will mix in. Jalen Wright is expected to make his NFL debut and get a little bit of work. What that split looks like is yet to be seen, yet to be determined. And of course, all depends on how available Achane is. But if he goes, Devon Achane is in your starting lineup. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. We may see him in a limited role, in a limited fashion, but this is a top 5 running back any given week. He's the team's RB1. He's also the team's wide receiver 3. It's too valuable of a role, combined with his obvious skill set, to not take a chance on. Again, Raheem Mostert, his running mate, is out. The expectation, the latest I saw about Raheem Mostert is he's not expected to go on IR, but this is not a long-term injury either. What that tells me is it's possible Raheem Mostert is also out week 3 and maybe returns week 4. But the fact that that is something that is being floated out there, and of course the Dolphins do get a mini bye week after tonight. They'll have a week and a half before their week 3 matchup, so it gives Mostert a little bit of extra time to get ready, to get right. That being said, it sounds like he could miss another game or 2 after this one. So Jeff Wilson remains a stash in deep leagues. Jalen Wright remains the long-term stash in all leagues, even 10 or 12-team leagues. You're ideally not dropping Jalen Wright if you have him. Wilson is a little bit more of a short-term hold. And in deeper formats, say 14, maybe 16-team leagues, Wilson is worth consideration for this evening. As a PSA, my first PSA of the season, if you have players going in Thursday Night Football, Devon Achane is probably locking down one of your running back spots, but in the event that he isn't, if you're starting Jeff Wilson, don't put him in the flex. Fire up your Thursday Night Football players in a positional spot to maximize your flexibility, pun intended, for the rest of the week. You ideally want your guys that are playing late, playing last, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football. Those are the guys that you put in your flex. again, to maximize flexibility. Don't lose your flex on a Thursday night football game where you know you're playing that player anyway. If you have a wide receiver playing on Thursday night in the flex, move him to a wide receiver spot. If you have a running back in the flex on Thursday night football, move him to a running back spot. Get those guys out of your flex no matter what. What's going on, Jake? Good to see you, man. And everybody as well. It's good to see some folks for the first time this season. Hope everybody's doing well. Again, in addition to getting called, out of order, members will they'll get shouted out. That is another mini perk of being a member of the channel. So good to see you, Jake. Hopefully everybody's off to a 1-0 start, but if you're not, that's okay. Rome wasn't built in a day. We'll get the dub this week. The other starts for this game, the must start is Josh Allen for the Bills. The must start for the Dolphins is Tyreek Hill. You're firing up Jalen Waddle. Again, short week, only 5 targets last week, but did he make the most of it? He's an obvious guy in your lineup. James Cook is a starter once again. You're going back to the well with Dalton Kincaid. If you drafted him as a top 5 tight end this year, you have no choice. You have to go back to the well with Dalton Kincaid. Achane, of course, a must start if he goes. If he doesn't go, if Achane is ruled out, which would be a bit of an upset at this point, based on the information that we have received, Jeff Wilson enters the RB2-ish conversation. So we'll take this stream right up to kickoff until we get that update. We are close to 90 minutes within that 90-minute threshold of where we'll start getting the official final injury report for the game. So we can talk shop once we know the definitive situation with Devon Achane and his availability tonight. If he's out, Jeff Wilson does tentatively enter the RB2 conversation. It's possible he's still available in shallower leagues. So we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Keon Coleman and Khalil Shakir are flex plays, both on the wide receiver 3 radar. It's a guessing game at this point, which one will outperform the other. So they're both on the flex radar. Curtis Samuel is still working his way back from turf toe. Jonnu Smith is not on the radar either. It's pretty much Hill, Waddle, Achane if he goes, Jeff Wilson if he doesn't for Miami. As far as Tua, if you have Tua Tagovailoa, super flex, obvious start. Less obvious in one quarterback leagues. He's a high-end QB2 for me. So if I have Tua, or if I have Tua, the threshold is probably like a Caleb Williams, and I'm okay with starting Tua over Caleb because Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze are both missing practice for the Bears. So I would take Tua over Caleb, but I'm taking Joe Burrow over Tua. I'm taking Baker Mayfield over Tua. I'm taking Jared Goff over Tua. I'm taking Dak Prescott over Tua. I'll take Tua over, Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, probably Justin Fields, just because of no Tua obviously doesn't give you anything on the ground, but when you have the ball, when you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to throw the football to, those guys can carry you to a low-end QB1 finish, which is a little bit more difficult on the short week plus the matchup. So Tua's a high-end QB2 for me this week. I am not super bullish on him, but there are some, there are enough names that I would fire up, or that I would fire Tua up over. I will say I like the kickers tonight. Thursday night football is often kind to kickers. So if you have Tyler Bass, I'm good with that. Or Jason Sanders. Both of them are probably rostered. hopefully, if you're the one in your league who has either one of those guys, ideally you didn't drop them for whatever reason. Kickers tend to do well on Thursday night, right? The level of play is a little bit more sluggish, generally speaking. So it's not uncommon to see drives stall out a little bit more frequently on Thursday Night Football. So I feel quite good about both kickers tonight, both Jason Sanders and Tyler Bass. I am perfectly fine with firing up both of them. I guess any weather to be concerned about in Miami. Is it raining in Miami? I know that a hurricane just made landfall, not necessarily in Florida, but other portions of the country. So obviously, hopefully, everybody is safe and dry. Tonight in Miami, we got about a 25% chance of rain. A stray shower or thunderstorm is possible. Generally speaking, rain moves out of the area, any area, at night as the evening, as time progresses. That's a weather thing. I'm not a meteorologist. I can't explain why. I just feel like that's like a common thing. Weather typically moves out of the area as the evening moves along. So it being a night game, on the East Coast is a good thing for, making those scattered storms maybe even less likely. So I don't think we're too worried about the kickers. They should be perfectly fine. They should be perfectly fine. It may fall. Louisiana is where it made landfall. That makes sense. I remember seeing an article yesterday that the Saints players had been sent home after practice as a big precaution. So, yeah, best wishes, of course, to folks in Louisiana and anybody dealing with the weather down there. Hopefully, everybody's safe and dry. But that said, for this game, it looks like the chance of showers and a storm in general is a little on the lower side. So 10-day weather forecast indicates that there shouldn't be any problems as far as wind or rain tonight. So Tyler Bass, Jason Sanders, both perfectly fine plays for me at kicker this evening. Bobby, Brooke, thank you for the super. That was very kind of you. That's very nice. You don't have to send a super, but if you are feeling generous, that will be a line jumper as far as getting your question answered, either being a member or sending a super. So thank you, Bobby. Appreciate that very much. Very kind of you. Supers will jump the line if you have questions of any kind, really. This is a rest of season question. If it's a one quarterback league, drop Rodgers. There's no need to. I see you have Garrett Wilson, which is great, but I would drop Aaron Rodgers. You're never going to play him unless it's either Kyler's bye week or Kyler gets hurt. And we'll worry about Kyler. If that happens, obviously not trying to put anything out there. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Kyler is your quarterback until further notice. There's no need to roster two quarterbacks in a one quarterback league unless your league hoards quarterbacks, which I guess is possible. Ideally, they don't. If there are other starting options on the waiver wire available to you, I would drop Rodgers and pick up another running back or a wide receiver. Running backs are good. They're strong. Bijan, Cook, Jordan Mason is looking like a big payoff right now as a cheap waiver wire ad, depending on whatever the status is of Christian McCaffrey moving forward. He has practiced the past couple of days, which is a good sign, but we're not out of the woods yet with him, not just for this week, but for the coming weeks in general when, the diagnosis is Achilles tendonitis. So, and who even knows how much truth there is to that, because the 49ers clearly are like not super interested in showing all of their cards, which is fine. A lot of NFL teams operate that way, kind of in secret as much as they can. But with everything that happened Monday night with Jordan Mason and, when did he find out he was going to start? Now we have all of this. Like, how bad is the injury? What is the situation that McCaffrey's dealing with right now? It's kind of murky, and I don't know that we can necessarily trust just anything that we hear. That all to say, Mason is a great stash and hold, and if McCaffrey is out, he's an obvious start. And then, yeah, good stashes. We'll see about Javonte Williams. He's the diciest one right now. Maybe Bo Nix just and the Broncos offense in general just need some time to gel and grow. Or maybe that's one of the lower, bottom third of the offenses in the NFL this year, which is also certainly possible. And then Javonte struggles as a result. Wilson, Flowers, McLaurin, Jaden Reed. I like these wide receivers, but it's missing just like a little bit of oomph for me. There's just like one more player that I feel like is missing. I haven't been super bullish on Zay Flowers just because of how expensive he was in drafts this year. And now it's possible that while I don't think Isaiah Likely is going to have too many more repeat performances than the one that he had week one, he is going to eat into the role of everybody in this offense, including Zay Flowers. So I haven't been super bullish on him. Terry McLaurin, I have been, but week one was a dud. So let's see if he and Jaden Daniels can get on the same page moving forward. I do like the Terry McLaurin pick. I am good with that. But he is catching passes from a rookie quarterback who's still finding his way. So we may have to continue to be a little patient with McLaurin. Jaden Reed looks great, looks awesome. Wish I was more in on him than I was during the offseason. But he takes a slight hit now for a few weeks with Malik Willis under center, as does obviously Christian Watson. The linchpin here would be Jameson Williams. If he can do what he did week one every 2 weeks and really have a consistent season, or maybe every 2 or 3 weeks is maybe a little bit more fair. If JMO can do that twice a month, then you're fine. Then you're in good shape. He may be volatile. He may be inconsistent. It might be unfair to put too much on as far as Jameson expectations after just one good week, but it was a really good week. And then McBride, you drafted to be a top 4 or 5 tight end. So ideally, he gets back on track against the Rams this week, which he should. It was a tough matchup for the Cardinals week one on the road against Buffalo. That was a tough spot for them. So better days should be ahead for Arizona. Solid team. Definitely a playoff contender. Wide receiver is a little thin. You're going to be relying on Jameson Williams to hit more often than not, and you're going to need Jaden Reed to be able to overcome the loss of Jordan Love for at least the next couple of weeks. Solid team. I would admittedly think it's maybe missing one more wide receiver to put you over the top. Hold tight for now. I would drop Aaron Rodgers for some wide receiver depth, whoever's available. I don't care. And I don't mean that facetiously. I don't care whatever wide receiver is on the wire at the moment that you like the most, drop Rodgers for that wide receiver. Overall, solid. And no reason to do anything drastic, but let's keep tabs on this on week to week and see like in the coming weeks where could we possibly improve the team, maybe specifically a wide receiver. But pretty good squad. Appreciate the super. And best of luck week 2. You're firing up James Cook tonight, of course. That has to happen. Okay. I see more member questions that have since jumped in, so I will get to again. Being a member, one of the perks of being a member of the channel is your questions will jump the line, but I will get to everybody, so appreciate everybody's patience. Thank you guys for coming in and hanging out tonight. I see all y'all's questions, and I will get to everybody, but I got to take care of my members first. You're starting okay. Well, Puka was one of the building blocks for you, so you're going to have to weather the storm probably until week 7. Puka's not coming back. The Rams, I believe, have a week 6 bye, so Puka's not coming back until like week 7. So ideally, you drafted steady at wide receiver early and often to help supplant that, because that's what we're looking at. We're looking at a decent absence for Puka. Who would I rather have between Jaleel McLaughlin or Javonte Williams rest of season? Tentatively Javonte, but I've only got like a 35% for maybe 40% like vote of confidence in my own answer there. This might not be a very good offense for the entire year. And that's not to say that I, think, lowly of Bo Nix. It's just he's a rookie with minimal talent. I mean, we'll see what if anybody's able to emerge. Marvin Mims did next to nothing. Cortland Sutton is a damn good receiver, but he can't do everything himself. The running backs did not look great. Tough spot on the road against Seattle week 1, but it's not getting any easier with Pittsburgh coming to town this week. So, I guess tentatively Javonte. Jaleel McLaughlin might be the more explosive player at this point. He lost a fumble week 1, so we'll see how much that curtails him in the short term. It's certainly possible that Jaleel McLaughlin kind of takes over whatever the better half is of this 50-50 split that I think is just kind of sticking around and not going anywhere. I don't know that Jaleel McLaughlin completely blows the competition for work out of the water to the point where Javonte Williams becomes obsolete. That being said, I don't know how much confidence I even have in my own pick of Javonte being the guy I'd rather have rest of season. I think both guys are murky. I think both guys are going to be difficult to trust most weeks. I think you're going to need to have or find very specific matchups for these guys that will warrant actual flex consideration. I have a league where I have both of them, where I have both Javonte and Jaleel. They are firmly on my bench, and that is not changing until I feel like one has separated from the other. I want to believe it's Javonte. I don't have a ton of confidence in that, though. For Greg, your quarterback options this weekend, probably Fields. Let's come back to this on Saturday, though. It's tough to make start-sit calls until we have all the information from Friday practices. I would tentatively go Fields because Caleb is down Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze. But if Keenan Allen gets back to practice on Friday, I might be a little bit more interested in Caleb. So it would be between those two. We need to see what happened. Does Keenan Allen make his way back to practice? I don't think Rome Odunze will. It sounds like he's going to miss a week or two, maybe 2 to 3. So let's come back to that. And then, of course, does Russell Wilson somehow make his way back to practice and earn the right to start against Denver? So it's between one of those two. Let's see what practice reports on Friday bring to light. As far as your tight end options, is that Parkinson? Is that a mistype? Is that a typo? If Colby Parkinson is available, you need to pick him up. And you missed out on Isaiah Likely and you're streaming tight ends. Colby Parkinson is the stream this week for me. There's going to be a debate now that Puka Nacua is out for a month, if not longer. There is an ongoing debate. Do I start Demarcus Robinson or do I pick up and stash Tyler Johnson? To me, the answer is Colby Parkinson. He was already pretty regularly involved for them Sunday night, and now Puka's out. I mean, Higbee's obviously not ready to come back. Parkinson is the stream for me at tight end this week. That's the part. Yeah, Parkinson. I would over Ferguson because even if he does go, I mean, he sounds like he's feeling a lot better. The knee injury that he picked up isn't too bad. It's maybe just a sprain. He said I think he was quoted earlier this week or even yesterday saying that it might not even be designated as like a grade 1 strain. I think he's trying to say that's how mild it is or how mild it feels. Nevertheless, it is a little dicey. if he goes, to be firing him up, given the fact that it was initially looking like he might miss multiple weeks. It's great that his diagnosis is a lot better than that. But yeah, I'm firing up Parkinson over anybody other than, the top 8 or 9 names that were drafted this year. And that includes Ferguson. I would absolutely start Parkinson. And that's for anybody. If you ended up with, you punted at tight end, maybe you grabbed like Hunter Henry, or maybe you grabbed Ty Conklin, or I don't know, maybe you grabbed like a Dallas Goedert or Noah Fant, and you missed on Isaiah Likely, go get Colby Parkinson. Go get Colby Parkinson. That's for anybody. Do I like Thielen over Hollywood Brown as a rest of season bench stash? No, I prefer Hollywood Brown. I know his value's in the toilet right now and he's hurt again, but I'll take a dude who could still be like a second half of the season contributor on what should be one of the best offenses in the NFL over Adam Thielen, who is still a solid player, but on maybe the worst team in the NFL. I'll take Hollywood Brown. All right, let me get back up to the top. I think I got my member questions so far. I did. All right, moving back up to the top. Appreciate everybody's patience as I work through that. I will get to everybody. I see all your questions, so just sit tight. Appreciate your patience, and thanks for coming in and hanging out ahead of Thursday Night Football. Hope everybody wins their matchup this week. Tua or Richardson? So it's Richardson. I mean, Anthony Richardson is, if this is a one quarterback league and Anthony Richardson is your quarterback, Anthony Richardson is your quarterback until the week 14 bye. I think that's when the Colts bye week is, like week 14. Anthony Richardson is a top 5 quarterback for fantasy purposes every single week. Lock it in. You can, if it's a one quarterback league and Anthony Richardson is your quarterback, trade Tua or just drop him outright and pick up another running back or a wide receiver. Richardson is a slam dunk, locked and loaded, top 5 quarterback every single week. And between him and Jaden Daniels look like the league winning options at quarterback. I know it's only 1 week. It's only week 1, but like, dude, Anthony Richardson is a menace, is a monster. He's going to win people championships this year. Anthony Richardson is locked and loaded in your starting lineup every single week in one quarterback. Dobbins or Achane, Rojo? Achane. I know if you have Achane, you are firing him up. You are firing him up. You have to fire up Achane and hope for the best. I know J.K. Dobbins popped last week. I want him in my lineup if I can find a way to get him into my lineup. But if it's between J.K. Dobbins and Devon Achane, then I can't get Dobbins into my lineup. It's dicey for sure. It's incredibly volatile. Short week. Achane is dealing with an injury. He returned to practice yesterday, which is a good sign. The news today has been that there is optimism around Devon Achane's availability to play tonight. We don't know what that necessarily means for his availability, but if Devon Achane is in the lineup, suited up, active, and expected to take snaps tonight, even if it turns out to be 20 snaps, you have to play him. You have to fire him up because all it takes is one touch for him to house it. He's that good. He's that big time as far as big time playmaking. Achane has to be in your lineup and hope for the best. Achane has to be in your lineup and you hope for the best. Pick 3 between, Saquon, Kyren, Achane are your starters. Put Achane in one of your running back spots. Again, for anybody who's just coming in, if you've got guys that are playing tonight, put them in one of their position spots. Leave your flex open for Sunday. You never know what could happen. You never know what random injury a player might pick up in practice. We hope that doesn't happen. But y'all been around the block long enough to know that weird shit happens in football during the football season. random dudes pop up on the injury report all the time out of nowhere when you least expect it. Keep that flex open for as long as possible. If you got a player in Monday Night Football, one of those players, if you have multiple, should be in your flex. If your last guy going is Sunday Night Football, that player should be in your flex. Keep your flex open until the last dude in your lineup that you're going to start plays. I will make sure to share that fun little, PSA each Thursday. So, yeah, Rojo, Achane in one RB spot, assuming he goes. I've not seen anything recently that indicates anything different, that he's not going to play. I'm keeping an eye on X, formerly Twitter. Not seeing anything recently. And, of course, like the good fantasy football commissioner that I am, I've got sleeper notifications on, which will tell me right away who is active and who isn't. So we're going to keep an eye on that. Nothing has rolled in yet. But as of right now, if Devon Achane plays, Devon Achane is locked and loaded as one of your starting running backs. Can we fire up Khalil Shakir? In a 14-team flex, sure. In a 12-team flex, when I say flex, I mean you're expecting flex performances. Still put the guys in your starting wide receiver spots, but I'm not expecting more than like a low end, maybe a wide receiver 3 performance from Shakir. I like Shakir, but low average depth of target last week. I know he scored, but I don't know. I feel like him and Coleman, it's like it's dealer's choice each week with him. He's fine, but he's like not. I don't have a super amount of confidence in him. Thoughts on handcuffing your RB1s? I mean, yeah, strongly in favor of it, generally speaking. If you can and you don't have to go out of your way to do it, yes, handcuff your RB1s. In redraft anyway. Best ball, different conversation, but in redraft, yes. I mean, if you draft Breece Hall and you can afford the roster spot, 10-team league, you might not be able to do it, but in a 12-team league, like I want to hang on to Braylon Allen. If I drafted Derrick Henry, I want to hang on to Justice Hill. If I drafted Bijan Robinson like you did, then I would go out of my way. Tyler Algier is going to get drafted even in 10-team drafts. I'm going to go out of my way to draft Tyler Algier. Yes, secure your insurance policy for your investment. Your first round pick or your first running back drafted is a big time investment. Get the insurance policy, which is the backup running back. As far as ranking those guys this week between Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason, or Charbonnet, the answer is Mason. I don't know. Mason is one. Even if Christian McCaffrey plays, I would imagine it's in a limited fashion. The vibes right now around Christian McCaffrey are murky at best. So Mason is number 1. Jeff Wilson would be number 2 if Achane is out tonight. He's number 3 if Achane is in tonight. I would take Charbonnet tentatively. Kenneth Walker is on the injury report a lot over the course of his career, but always ends up playing, or not always, but frequently. It's not uncommon to see, Kenneth Walker didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, but then he plays in the game. That is not an uncommon trend for Ken Walker. So him missing practice on a Wednesday doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot for me. Seattle is notorious for getting their practice reports and injury reports for the day in kind of late. So we're probably not going to get that information for a little while longer. Yeah, I don't see anything. Generally speaking, the Seahawks in particular, I remember this from last year, their practice reports from the day come in kind of late. So as of right now, it's Mason, Charbonnet, Wilson. Wilson would leapfrog Charbonnet in the event that Achane is out. If Achane's out, do I take a chance on Wilson or Wright or roll with Deontay or Higgins? I would roll with one of the Dolphins running backs. If Achane is out, I would roll with probably Jeff Wilson. I want it to be Jalen Wright, I want Jalen Wright to be the guy that I want to believe in. But right now, in his first career game, I'll lean on Jeff Wilson, who got work last week, has been effective in this offense in years past, and would theoretically be in line as the 1A. Jeff Wilson is the guy who will contribute in the short term. It's fine to believe that Jalen Wright will be the one to contribute in the long term later in the season, maybe after the Dolphins bye week. And a guy that I want to stash for sure. If I drafted Jalen Wright or was able to get him off waivers in shallower leagues, I absolutely want to hang on to him. But I don't want to play Jalen Wright tonight. I would play Jeff Wilson if Achane is out. I would play Jeff Wilson over Deontay Johnson, who is still in quarterback hell. I don't believe Deontay is not that good, but I do not think we're going to see good numbers from him this year unless the Panthers turn things around and fast. Which, how much confidence do you have in that? It's officially, we can hit the panic button on Bryce Young. We can officially hit the panic button on Bryce Young. So I don't want to play Deontay. And Higgins has not practiced 2 straight days. He's not going to play. The vibes are horrendous right now for the Bengals in general. There's questions about Joe Burrow's health. The Jamar Chase contract situation is still hanging over their heads. T. Higgins is playing on the franchise tag, which he hasn't been happy about since they slapped it on him at the beginning of the offseason. Now he's like, maybe he's actually injured, but I also think he's probably, he's looking out for his own best interest. He's looking out for T. Higgins, which is fair. He's looking for a long-term contract, and he doesn't have one right now. So if he's less than 100%, which he obviously is, he's not going to risk it. The vibes are so bad for Cincinnati right now. I would not, I have Joe Burrow around the QB 11 or QB 12 for this week, but I do not have a lot of confidence in that. That being said, you're not playing Higgins no matter what. And I don't think you can play Deontay Johnson either, who I've always been a fan of. I've always been a Deontay guy. He is firmly on your bench until further notice. So if Achane is out tonight, I would start Jeff Wilson. Yes. Achane or Connor? Achane. I mean, I want to play Connor as well, but if you can only pick one of these guys, Connor's one of those dudes where it's like, okay, I could see it. He's a bell cow. Arizona's at home. They should be fine against the Rams, and Connor has operated as a bell cow when healthy. So you can, full weeks rest, all that stuff, not playing on a short week. But Devon Achane is just too... His playmaking upside is too tantalizing to leave him out of the lineup if he's active. You have to play Devon Achane, even if it's over like a really good, rock-solid option like a James Conner. I would hope you could start both of these guys, but it would seem like you can't if you're asking between the two. It has to be Achane. It has to be Achane. Ford or Christian Kirk in full PPR. So again, Saturday, Sunday questions about the Sunday slate, start sit questions about the Sunday slate will be best answered over the weekend. That being said, I think you go back to Jerome Ford this week. I don't trust the Browns offense all that much, but Jerome Ford has that entire backfield to himself right now for the most part. Kirk is at home, but this is a tough matchup against the Browns. They're playing each other in this game. I would probably say Ford. Kirk is close in the rankings because it's full PPR, and I think he'll have a better showing this week than he did last week. But it is a tough matchup against Cleveland. They have a good defense. I would take Ford, but I would also encourage, anybody that has questions about the Sunday slate, start sit questions that don't involve tonight's game, the Thursday game, I would encourage you to come back on the weekend, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, when we have more information, Friday practice reports, and we're closer to the final bell, and it's a little, it's going to be as clear as it possibly can be to make a call. I would say Ford now, though. What's up, Crumbly Heads? Good to see you, dude. Thanks for coming in. I think you sent me one more screenshot on Discord. I will get to that. I did not forget about it. Ridley Z. Okay, so start one, and Jeff Wilson is in consideration of this group if Achane does not play. If Achane does not play, I would start Jeff Wilson over all of these guys, over Ridley, over Zeke, over Eckler, over Lockett, and over Shaheed. It might be dicey, but if Achane is out, it doesn't sound like he's going to be out. It sounds like he's going to play. At least that's what I last saw or have most recently seen. Oh, the inactives just came in. Devon Achane is not on the inactive list. Devon Achane is active tonight. Aaron Wilson on X just reported the Dolphins inactives. Devon Achane is not a part of them, not a part of the inactive list, which means he is active, which means he is playing, which means Devon Achane is in your starting lineup if you have him. If you were maybe considering Jeff Wilson as an alternate option, I would look to pivot off of him outside of deeper leagues where you're desperate at running back. And Wilson does figure to mix in tonight. If Achane is in fact nursing an injury, it should be minor enough since he's suiting up, but he's not going to get a bell cow workload without Raheem Mostert. You would think that on a short week, having been on the injury report, the Dolphins will look in some ways to load manage Devon Achane. But this is, on the other hand, a division game. This is a big matchup. This is a division game, and the Dolphins are at home. So they're not only having to defend home field, they have to defend home field against a team that they are going to be going likely toe-to-toe with for the division title all season long. So if Achane's out there, they're going to play him, but Wilson will mix in as like an RB3. So to the question, do you start Jeff Wilson, over Ridley, Zeke, Eckler, Lockett, or Shaheed? Now I'm a little less inclined to want to go that route. I would probably prefer to play Ridley. But I would say Jeff Wilson is not in consideration from this group now that Achane is playing. So I would say we take the weekend to again, let practice reports flow in. Let's see what the beat reporters have to say about certain situations, different situations, and see what type of pulse they have going into the weekend closer to kickoff. I think we can leave Jeff Wilson off of this list. Is McCaffrey playing? I'm now below. If you guys have the same order that I do, I am now below Bobby's super. So appreciate y'all's patience, and again, thanks to Bobby for the super. Very generous. Is McCaffrey playing? So he was officially listed as limited in practice today for the second straight day. Earlier in the week, it was reported that he's dealing with Achilles tendonitis. If that is true, and I don't know how much we can believe coming out of San Francisco right now, teams generally like to play these smoke and mirror games. They don't want everybody to know the exact specifics of what is going on with anything at all. Players, game plan, whatever have you. They're keeping their cards close to the vest, rightfully so. Most NFL teams do this in some way, shape, or form. Every NFL team does this in some way. So right now, it's really hard to determine what is the status, like what is the true situation with Christian McCaffrey's health. Nobody really knows. Nobody really knows. We don't really know. Practiced in a limited fashion 2 days in a row, so that's good. But he returned to practice after the preseason as well, and it seemed like everything was fine. There were no questions about, do I still draft Christian McCaffrey first overall when we were all conducting our drafts just 10, 14 days ago? There was none of that. And now it's like, where are we at with Christian McCaffrey and his availability, not just for this week, but like for the coming weeks? How far away are we from a fully 100% Christian McCaffrey? We have no idea. So to that point, Jordan Mason, if you were fortunate enough, whether you had the foresight to go get him or you handcuffed McCaffrey anyway because you have McCaffrey, well done. Get Jordan Mason in your lineup. So yeah, Mason over Deontay Johnson, absolutely. Absolutely. I like Deontay Johnson. I always have, but the Carolina Panthers are a train wreck. They have been since before last year, and they haven't seemed to figure it out yet. I know it's only 1 week, but that was abysmal. Their showing against the New Orleans Saints was awful. I have no confidence in anybody on that team right now. So Mason 100% over Deontay Johnson, even if McCaffrey is ruled in and plays on a limited basis. Mason over Deontay. Are we trusting Kincaid? You have to. You have to. You drafted him as a top 5 or 6 tight end on the season. You have to. I think he will do better tonight. You can't do much worse than what happened week 1, which is wild. The Arizona Cardinals have been specifically awful against tight ends for like 4 or 5 years running. And then they hold Dalton Kincaid to like 2 targets. I think he will have a better showing tonight. But regardless, you drafted Dalton Kincaid to be a top line tight end 1. It's week 2. You have to go back to the well with Dalton Kincaid. You just have to. You have to. Who's your alternative? Colby Parkinson, who I like a lot as a streamer, but not over the guys that I drafted to be a tight end 1 who are 100% healthy. You have to trust Kincaid. You have to. And then do you drop Josh Palmer for Jeff Wilson? I wouldn't unless your running back situation is not in good shape. If your running back situation is in bad shape, fine. But I still like Palmer for decent wide receiver depth for the rest of the season. Especially because wasn't DJ Chark put on injured reserve? He was. Chark was put on IR. I mean, yeah, you got to hang on. If you have Josh Palmer, hang on to Josh Palmer. If you have him, hang on to him. Josh Palmer's a solid season-long stash and hope at wide receiver. I got my members. Are Wilson and Wright both start? So HN is active. He is officially in. So Wilson's more on the RB3 line. If you're hurting at running back and you're desperate, Wilson is like on the RB3. Expectation, I guess. Jalen Wright remains a stash. It's his first career NFL game. He'll probably mix in, but we can't fire him up with any amount of confidence yet. Jalen Wright is a stash and wait. Wilson is an RB3 if you really need a running back. Jerome Ford, James Cook, Brian Robinson, and Jaden Reed. Well, James Cook should be in your starting lineup tonight. His touchdown upside is limited, I know. But you drafted James Cook probably in the 6th or 7th round, and he handled all of the work out of the backfield last week. Yeah, well, aside from what Josh Allen vultures, but we knew that's what we were getting from James Cook when we drafted him. We knew that Josh Allen would be the touchdown vulture. What didn't come to fruition was Ray Davis did not have a bigger role, which some people thought might be the case right away. That wasn't the case. James Cook handled like 22 touches out of the backfield, 21, 22 touches out of the backfield week 1. So, I mean, you should get 100 scrimmage yards from him. Yeah, he might not score a touchdown, but you should get 80 to 100 scrimmage yards from him. As far as your other guys, if you need to start another running back, in full PPR, I'm going to be enticed to play Jaden Reed despite the bad situation at quarterback. It's tough, again, before we get Friday practice reports, to make a call on the Sunday, the guys that you're starting on Sunday sooner than the weekend. That being said, I would play James Cook of this group tonight. I would tentatively, I guess, play I would play Ford and Jaden Reed, even though I don't really want to sit Brian Robinson in a good matchup. Tentatively, Ford and Jaden Reed would be your other starters here. I would encourage you to come back on the weekend if you can, to get a little bit more of a definitive answer from me when we know all that we need, basically, which is Friday practice reports. You never know what could happen. James Cook for tonight is in your starting lineup. Even though, yes, I understand the concern about lack of touchdowns, but we knew that going in. We knew Josh Allen was going to be the touchdown vulture, and that Cook would get the yardage. So we got to fire him up. You probably drafted him in the 5th or 6th round. He didn't do anything last week to deter you from doing that again, from starting him again. Neighbors and Devontae Smith for Adams, for Devontae Adams. If you're getting Neighbors and Devontae Smith, then yes, I can't imagine. If there's somebody who wants Devontae Adams, if you're asking, should you give up Neighbors and Devontae Smith for Adams, then no. If you're getting Neighbors and Devontae Smith, then yes, absolutely. Hopefully your league isn't a league that vetoes trades. But if they do, that trade might get vetoed. Neighbors and Devontae Smith for Adams would be highway robbery. With all due respect to Devontae Adams, who is a future Hall of Famer and has had an absolute stud career, he's older now, and those vibes in Vegas for his usage are not good. Brock Bowers is already commanding a solid target share, and Jacoby Myers ate heavy into that target share as well. Plus, the Raiders' offense is just like not that good. So how many scoring opportunities are they going to have? Yeah, that's robbery. Neighbors and Devontae Smith would be robbery. Devontae Adams has been that dude, but he's not that dude anymore. He's still good, but Neighbors and Devontae Smith in a landslide, in an absolute landslide. Would I take Parkinson over Freiermuth? You bet I would. Absolutely, I would. Parkinson over anybody. Here's the names of. Let me look at my list of tight ends here. The names at tight end that I am starting over Colby Parkinson. Give me 1 second here. Sam Laporta, Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Evan Engram. I'll go back to the well with Evan Engram one more time, or a couple more times. I guess I have to. But Evan Engram. I'm going back to the well with Mark Andrews one more time. Kyle Pitts, Dalton Kincaid, Brock Bowers. I'll repeat that list. Trey McBride, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta, Evan Engram, Mark Andrews, George Kittle, Kyle Pitts, Brock Bowers, Dalton Kincaid. Those are the tight ends I'm starting over Colby Parkinson. Yeah, I guess you can argue Isaiah Likely as well, but I don't think that we can expect another, like a repeat of week 1 for Isaiah Likely. He should be good. He should be involved. But maybe expect some regression to the mean, while we can expect some more volume to go Colby Parkinson's way without Puka Nacua for the entire game. Colby Parkinson is a low-end tight end 1 this week. I would have him ranked as a top 10 tight end. Colby Parkinson is a top 10 tight end. Pat Freiermuth is what he is. A good NFL player and not and not a good fantasy, a good option for fantasy. Maybe not all of that is his fault. Pittsburgh's offense is not great, but Pat Fryermuth is what he is, a rock solid real life tight end. Not a guy I want to start in my fantasy lineup. Hurts, Chase, Wilson, Henry, Montgomery, Laporta, Rice. Strong. The wide receivers are a little dicey. Chase is an excellent talent, but the vibes in Cincinnati are just kind of, they could be better. They could be better. And I want them to be better because Joe Burrow is awesome and that offense is electric when they're clicking. But, like, how healthy is Joe Burrow right now? He said he's fine, but players say that all the time. Chase has the contract looming, and T. Higgins is nowhere to be found. So, like, the vibes aren't great. Chase is a great individual talent, but the vibes aren't great. So, I want to give a greater vote of confidence to having Jamar Chase on your team, but I do have to have a little bit of reservation relative to expectation. He's still a stud wide receiver one. But the vibes are down right now. Garrett Wilson, things could turn around for him. They got probably their toughest matchup out of the way, toughest matchup of the season out of the way, having to go on the road Monday Night Football to play San Francisco. So things should get better for that Rodgers to Wilson connection moving forward. So I'm good with that. Hurts should continue to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, but he did not play that well Friday night. He had like a real his accurate throw rating was really bad. So we need Jalen Hurts to kind of turn it around from a consistency perspective, but he runs, so he's a top 3 to 5 quarterback for fantasy most weeks still, which is good. But the ceiling might not be as high. You know, Saquon took a lot of those goal line touches that Hurts has been getting the past 2 years. So he might not be seeing that same number of volume. I don't think it's completely going away, but the ceiling might be a little lower this year with Hurts. Still top 5 option, but he needs to play better, more efficiently, and we need to see a couple more tush pushes at the goal line. So we'll see. Still a good option, though. Running back depth is strong. Henry, Monty, Ford, Stevenson. I mean, and you have Dobbins. I like all that. That's great. That's really good. And then Rashee Rice might be your wide receiver one, which sounds crazy to say when you have your other 2 options are Jamar Chase and Garrett Wilson. But right now, today, Rice might be your wide receiver one, which is not a bad thing. It's just he looks good. He looks good. Like a ho-hum 7 for 100 last week. If he scores half the time with that stat line, he's a wide receiver one on the season. And then we'll see with Laporta. Not a great week last week. Still a guy you're starting as a top 3 tight end. He should be fine. So I like the running back depth quite a bit. I would let it ride. I would probably let it ride. Mike Williams I guess Mike Williams can be a decent stash. But we could be waiting on him for a bit. And Bobby, you're welcome for the feedback. Thank you again for the super. If you are feeling generous to offer a super, not requesting it, or no, you don't have to. Nobody has to. But it does jump the line, the question line. But if not, I just ask that you guys be patient as I make my way through the questions, but I will get to everybody. Appreciate y'all's patience. If you think I missed your question, just let me know. I don't think I've missed anybody. I apologize if I have. I'm just going back up real quick. I don't think I have. I think I'm good. But I'll make sure I get to everybody. Higgins will be in Tennessee next year. Yeah, they have. I mean, I guess they could. Is does the I know they just signed Calvin Ridley, but does Hopkins come off the books this year? I think he does. They only signed him on like a 2-year deal last year. Yeah, they have void years. The Titans have void years after this year, so they could move on from him with minimal, uh, like with a minimal hit and no necessarily cap hit. So that's like 18 mil off the book. So they could go that route. Can you imagine all the YOLO balls that Will Levis will be throwing if he's got Calvin Ridley on one side, he's got T Higgins on the other. Levis should be like, fuck it, one of them's down there somewhere. He loves the YOLO ball to his own detriment, but that's another conversation. I see another question about Achane. So he is playing. So you're starting Devin Singletary. If your options are Devin Singletary or Jeff Wilson, you're starting Devin Singletary. And I know that the Giants are impossible to trust right now. Their offense does not look good, but at least he caught 4 passes last week. The Giants should do better against Washington this week for whatever that's worth. Their defense got absolutely torn up by the Bucs. So maybe the Giants find a little bit more success on offense this week against a Washington defense that is still figuring things out. So that being said, I don't feel great about it, but I would start Singletary. I would start Singletary over Jeff Wilson now that Achane is in. Montgomery, Ford, Dobbins, or Stevenson for this week. Yeah, Ramondre looked great. Ford looked good. Montgomery looked good. Ramondre is probably like the closest thing to a bell cow of this group. Probably Ramondre. Probably Henry and Ramondre are your plays. I would not start any of those other guys over Rashee Rice. You have really good depth at running back, which is great. That's awesome. You might have some good performances go off on your bench, but that's okay. Depth, as we all know, running back depth can dry up quickly throughout the course of the season. So better to have what feels like too many than not enough. I would say Henry and Stevenson are your backs this week, and none of those other guys start over Rice. I have a question about thoughts on the team, like a rate a team question. 12-team PPR. Stafford, Taylor, Gibbs, Cooper, Waddle, Andrews. Hold for now. Your running backs are stout. You have Taylor and Gibbs. Those are two locked in top 6 or 7 running backs. Love Waddle. Big fan of Waddle. I really would love to see him get more targets. He only had 5 targets last week. He had 5 targets and he caught all of them and turned it into 109 receiving yards. Waddle's a beast. I would love to see him get 8 targets, 9 targets, which is what he deserves. But Waddle's in your starting lineup. You're going back to the well with Mark Andrews. You have to. You drafted him as a top 5 tight end. It's not like you're selling him at his lowest point or giving up on him because, what is your alternative? You have to go back to Andrews. Cooper, I liked Cooper at cost this year. Is that Amari Cooper or Cooper Kupp? If it's Cooper Kupp, then you're in great shape. If it's Amari Cooper, then it's hard to feel as strongly about it. Cooper's still a baller, but Deshaun Watson might be burnt toast, man. We might be seeing the last of Deshaun Watson at this point. So I wouldn't like it as much if it's Amari Cooper. I like Amari Cooper, the individual talent, but That situation is not great right now. Stafford is fine as a streamer, but maybe not every week, especially now that Puka's down for the count. Is Baker Mayfield available? Grab him. I like the pieces though. I like the pieces top to bottom. Starting off 0-1 isn't a killer. Starting off 0-1, it sucks, but we got a lot of season left. So hold for now. Team is fine. Steve, thank you. I appreciate that you find me funny. I'm happy somebody does. I appreciate that. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your patience. I see you got a question. Assuming Achane plays limited, you're between Pacheco, Achane, Mason, or Ford. The first three, you have to play. I mean, you got to play Achane. Like I've been saying, you got to play Achane. He's a stud. He might only, even if he plays like a quarter of the snaps, which would be really frustrating. But even if he did that, he can house one on any given play. And I think he's going to, I'm painting maybe like a worst case scenario picture. He's active and they're playing a division opponent that they are going to be toe to toe with for the division for the entire season. So if he's out there, I think he's going to play maybe like a hair under his normal allotment of snaps, but I would think he plays pretty close to what we usually expect from Devon Achane as far as the number of snaps that he's out there. You have to play him. Pacheco's a locked and loaded low-end RB1, and then Mason and Ford you can wait on to see if McCaffrey's ruled out or ruled in. Either way, I think you probably play Mason even if McCaffrey's active. Until we see Christian McCaffrey be Christian McCaffrey, I think it's fair to fire up Jordan Mason even if he's active, even if McCaffrey's active. Ford would be the odd man out. If the vibes change and it's like McCaffrey's full at practice, he looks great, he's feeling a lot better, he's drawing the start, he's going to see the lion's share of work. If these are all the reports that are coming in before kickoff, then yeah, fine, we can pivot back to Ford. Anything other than that, and I would play Mason. I would play Pacheco, I would play Achane tonight, and I would play Mason. That's where I'm going. Brian Thomas or Christian Kirk or both. In full PPR, I do think Kirk bounces back, even though the matchup is not great. This is a tough spot for the Jags wide receivers against Cleveland, who has a good defense. So both are more on like the wide receiver 3. They're on like the wide receiver 3 spectrum right now, not necessarily the wide receiver 2. Like range of rankings. Kirk would be the floor play. Brian Thomas would probably be the all or nothing play. If you have to play one of them, I would play Kirk if if you feel like you're in a comfortable spot, your team is mostly good otherwise, you think you should be able to, if you think you have a better team than your opponent, maybe play Kirk. If you think you need upside, I would maybe play Brian Thomas. If a 10-point or an 8 or 9-point game isn't good enough and you need a 15-point week or a 12-point week, maybe Thomas has the higher ceiling, but he has the lower floor as well. Both are in a bad spot, though. This is not a great matchup against the Browns. For all the turmoil of the Browns' offense, their defense is still good. Their defense is still strong. Yeah, I wouldn't want to play the Jags receivers this week. I like Christian Kirk as a buy low. If you could potentially get him at a discount. But he's not my favorite play this week. I agree about AD Mitchell. AD Mitchell I think he's going to be pretty damn good. He's going to be pretty damn good. I mean, Josh Downs is not looking likely to play for a second straight week. Alec Pierce had a nice week one. He had a really nice week one. So maybe he still continues to mix in. But, dude, AD Mitchell was a couple of miscues. They were minor miscues. You know, it's week one. We don't hold too much against players. You know, they're getting on the same page. They're getting their feet wet, all that stuff. They're finding their connection, their rhythm, their groove, all that good stuff. Anthony Richardson just missed AD Mitchell a couple of times. That would have made his day absolutely, both of them, absolutely massive performances. So they just need to get that timing down just like a little bit, which it should happen eventually. You know, these guys are pros. They'll figure it out. Mitchell's upside is very good. In this offense, with Richardson throwing that ball, dude's got a cannon. Like, oh, man. Yeah, I feel very good about AD Mitchell. Feel very strong about him. He is a long shot in deeper leagues, but if you play in like a 14 or 16 team league, I wouldn't be afraid to fire up a moonshot with AD Mitchell if my other options are limited. If maybe I have Puka in a deeper league and I'm looking for just viable options. Yeah. Should be solid. Don't start Green Bay receivers. It's fair. Malik Willis is not that good. Jaden Reed is that dude though. So like I want to have a little bit of hope and belief in him. They'll manufacture touches for Jaden Reed. But I definitely agree with like Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. Forget about it. These guys are on your bench until Jordan Love comes back. Jake, you need to drop a guy. And again, I see other questions. Members get the priority, but then I will jump back up and get to everybody else. So just sit tight. I see the unanswered questions. I will get to them. You have to drop one of either Brian Thomas, JSN, Adunze, or Robinson. Robinson. Thomas, JSN, and Adunze are all like, those were decent investments this year. That looks like your 7th, 8th, and 9th round picks, or 8th, 9th, and 10th round picks from your draft. It's too soon to drop any of those guys. Well, especially Thomas. Thomas performed. Thomas caught a touchdown last week. Adunze's got the injury, so that sucks, but we don't want to give up on him just yet when the timeline to return is positive for him. JSN is a good player in a middling situation, but we can't drop him yet either. You got to drop. If you have to drop one of these dudes, it has to be Demarcus Robinson, who probably will be solid for the next month while Puka's out, but you invested in these dudes. You invested in Brian Thomas. You invested in JSN. You have invested in Rome Odunze. If you're not starting any of these dudes, like, are you starting Demarcus Robinson? If not, then I don't think you can keep him over those other names, especially Brian Thomas, who actually delivered week one. You got to keep those guys. You got to keep those young receivers. Should you trade Deontay for Brock Bowers? Who's your current tight end? And who are your wide receivers? That being said, I am okay with making this move if you have it available to you. You've Engram. I am willing to go back to the well with Evan Engram for one more week. It's a tough matchup for sure. The Browns they have one of the better defenses in the NFL. If you have good receivers and maybe more importantly, good receiver depth, So if one goes down, do you have another guy on your bench that you could plug in theoretically? If you do, then I'm fine with the trade. It it does get annoying or can get frustrating trying to pick between two different tight ends all season long. I do tend to like just like finding one tight end and just that's my tight end for better or worse, and I will sink or swim with that player. Um, but Deontay Johnson is in such a bad situation right now. Brock Bowers' situation might not be great either, but at least he had 6 catches in his NFL debut. That's pretty damn good. Cup, Wilson, Neighbors. Yeah, okay. I would do it. Yeah. Yeah, I would do it. I would trade Deontay for Bowers. You could start Bowers this week. You can let Ingram sit on the bench for a week against Cleveland. I still want to believe in Ingram for the rest of the season. This would be a week that I think is fine to bench him if you have a better option. And if you end up with Bowers in this trade, I think for at least this week, that would be the better option. I do think Ingram should still be fine this year as like a PPR volume holdover guy. But it's fine. If you end up with Bowers, it's fine to sit Ingram for a week against the tough defense. But yeah, I would be okay with that trade. Should you start Waddle over Rice this week? If you can't start both, and make no mistake, these dudes are both starter worthy. And I love Jalen Waddle, but if you can only play one, it has to be Rice. It has to be Rashee Rice. It has to be Rice. He looks to have maybe taken over as the pass catching option number 1 for Kansas City over Travis Kelce. This has been going on since the end of last season. Kelce's still out there getting his work, but there were whispers all off season, and they were loud whispers too that the Chiefs are gonna scale back Travis Kelce, keep him fresh, keep him ready for their stretch run because they're playing for February, not September, right? Rice is that team's, I think, number 1 option now, and catching passes from Patrick Mahomes and looking as explosive as he does. A cool 7 catches, 100 yards, 103 yards, I think he had last week. If he goes 6 for 80 and a score, like, I love Jalen Waddle. And he should be fine tonight. He should do just fine tonight. But, dude, it has to be Rice. It has to be Rice. I wish you could start both, but it has to be Rice. Chase Brown is on waivers. Yes, I want to roster Chase Brown, but maybe not at the expense of Wright. Definitely not at the expense of Mason. I'm not there yet with Javonte. I'm not quite there yet. I can't. It might pay off, but I'm not at the point where I'm ready to drop Javonte Williams for Chase Brown. And Watson is another guy that I am waiting on, who I want to stash and hold. As far as Zach Moss dealing with a minor neck injury, that's not great. It's not great. They're saying it's minor. Yeah. I don't know that we're necessarily at a place where we panic about Zach Moss yet. Those guys are not. I'm not dropping. I'm not dropping those guys for Chase Brown. I like Chase Brown, but I don't want to drop him for any of those guys, or I don't want to add him for any of those guys. Pick 2 for full PPR: McLaurin, Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, or you could snag Robinson, Cooks, Madison. You gotta play McLaurin. You have to play. McLaurin. I don't think it would be crazy to grab Brandon Cooks off waivers and fire him up over the Jags. Ooh, and it's whatever. If however much stock you put into this, it's a revenge game for Brandon Cooks. He's playing his old team, the New Orleans Saints. There's always, I don't care what anybody tells me, there's always a little extra incentive when a player plays his old team. They want to show out and play well every week, but you can't tell me that there isn't a little extra incentive playing your old team. Yeah, pick up Brandon Cooks. I would pick up and play Brandon Cooks as your maybe it's a wide receiver 3. I like Brian Thomas. I like Christian Kirk, but this is a tough matchup for them against Cleveland. I think this is not as difficult a matchup for Cooks. Cowboys are at home playing the Saints. I think I like Cooks as a shot over the Jaguars wide receivers. I think so. I think I do. I think I like Cooks a little bit more. I think I like Cooks a little bit more. Yeah, McLaurin and Cooks. 2 wide receivers in a now we're picking 2 wide receivers in a flex. Well, Wilson's in there. Probably McLaurin, and I got to think about it, but maybe Jameson as your wide receiver 3 if you need upside. Oh, Jordan Mason is in there too. Mason, Wilson, Terry McLaurin, Jordan Mason. That's what it has to be. We have to play Jordan Mason this weekend if Christian McCaffrey is out against all, regardless of all whatever could happen with Christian McCaffrey. You have to play Jordan Mason this week. Wilson, Terry, Mason. That's who you're firing up. And then Ridley or Kirk this week. I guess I would go Ridley. He led the team in targets last week, which is good. It only turned into 50 receiving yards, which isn't great. Who are they playing? Oh, they're playing the Jets. Damn it. So Ridley's going to see Sauce Gardner. But Kirk is playing the Browns, and that's not a good matchup either. Between Ridley or Kirk, is there anybody else on your bench? Is like a Brandon Cooks out there on waivers? Maybe not. Trying to think who else could theoretically be out there. Nah, probably wouldn't. I mean, yeah, like a Brandon Cooks, if you have to go between Ridley and Kirk, man, I guess I would say Kirk. That's how bad the matchup is for Ridley going up against Sauce Gardner. If you have to play Ridley or Kirk, I would play Kirk. And you were offered London and Ridley for Devontae and Reed. You are giving up Drake London and Calvin Ridley for Devontae Smith and Jaden Reed? Is that the trade? You would be giving up Drake London and Calvin Ridley and getting Devontae Smith and Jaden Reed? I listed Drake London as a buy low candidate. After this week, after a bad performance, I do think London is in for. I still think London is in for a good season. I just think that Kirk Cousins needs to find his sea legs a little bit. The Falcons need to build a connection, a rapport with the entire offense as a whole in general. What's going on, Nemo? Good to see you. But if you can get Devontae Smith and Jaden Reed for London and Ridley, um, the first guy of this group that was drafted this year was London, and then Devontae Smith, and then Ridley, and then Reed in that order. I think Devontae Smith is going to have a really good season. If Jaden Reed had had Jordan Love and not Malik Willis for the next month, I might be a little bit more interested in this. Here's what I would do. I would wait. I'm not turning this down completely, but I'm turning it down for now because Jaden Reed doesn't have Malik Willis or doesn't have Jordan Love for the next couple of weeks. If Jaden Reed's performance takes a hit and doesn't perform well for the next couple of weeks, you can maybe negotiate another piece in this trade where you get another upgrade in the form of a third player. Maybe you still have to make it an even 3-for-3 swap, but the third player that you give back in return is a big drop off in talent from the other guys that are exchanged in this deal. I would wait. I would wait until we are closer to knowing when we can expect Jordan Love to return, because it's very possible that for the next couple of weeks, Jaden Reed's numbers are not that good, and that brings his value down a little bit, which would allow you to ask for even more in a trade. Does that make sense? So I would say no for now, especially with London coming off such a bad performance. I want his value to come up as well. So it's twofold. I want to get my own guy's value back up, and I want to see if your guys' value maybe takes a hit a little bit now that his circumstances are worse. Now we're playing chess, not checkers, right? No, not that you were playing checkers before, but this is why we do this to kind of talk through your situation and figure out what is the best course of action. So I would wait. I would do nothing. Hold on to London and Ridley for now. Let's see if London can get his value back up here in the next couple of weeks as Kirk Cousins kind of finds himself in this Falcons offense. Harrison or Jameson Williams? Dude, this is where we're at. JMO, what's going on, Jay? Good to see you, man. Hopefully summer was good. Hopefully the first week of football was good for you. It's good to see you in here. Harrison or JMO? Man, how the mighty have fallen. Dude. It's so bad right now. It's so bad with Marvin Harrison after just 1 week, just like that. Meanwhile, Jameson Williams popped off. What we don't yet know is how consistent can Jameson Williams be. But that's what we do not know. And I can't imagine, yes, all of the panic alarms are being raised as it pertains to Marvin Harrison. He was abysmal. The separation score was not good. They weren't really scheming up plays for him conceivably. Yes, he could have salvaged his day with a touchdown toward the end of the game, but Kyler didn't see him. It was a whole concoction of crap for Marvin Harrison this past week. So the confidence is now down in the toilet. If you are between Harrison and Jameson Williams, I would say Harrison is a safe play, theoretically. We're maybe hoping for a 10-point floor. Jameson is all or nothing. So if you think you need upside or if you want to swing for the fences, let's see how consistent Jameson Williams can be. Has he put it all together, which would be incredible, which would be amazing. If you think you need upside, the answer is Jameson Williams. Harrison would be the floor play if you think you can get away with a floor play. Jameson has the higher ceiling, but his floor is lower than Harrison's, most likely. Most likely. So it depends on you what you think you need based on your matchup. And then would I start both Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely in full PPR? Depends on your other options. If this is like you're between Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, and those guys, I still am inclined to pick one of the two tight ends, which would be Andrews, and then just start a wide receiver in the flex. That's what I want to do. If it's like Likely or do I pick up Brandon Cooks? Again, similar answer to Harrison or JMO. Likely is maybe like a floor play. Possible touchdown or bust. We still aren't 100% clear on what this Ravens offense will look like for the entire season. Cooks would be a ceiling play with maybe with an even lower floor. So it depends on what you need. Likely is maybe a boring floor play, but if he doesn't score a touchdown, does he peter out as the tight end 15 this week? We see inconsistent tight end play all the time. Like, does Mark Andrews get back on track this week? It's possible. I would say Likely is definitely too talented for the Ravens not to involve in their game plan every single week, but that doesn't mean that he won't be volatile. So I'll say Likely is maybe like a floor play, and Cooks is a little bit more of like a boom bust play, depending on what you think you might need. Yeah, and I would start Andrews over Likely for one more week. And then is Josh Palmer a start? Not. I mean, he didn't do anything last week. I like Josh Palmer, but he's still a stash and hold. I'm not starting Josh Palmer. It's a great matchup. That's all well and good, but I'm not banking on Josh Palmer. I'm not relying on him this week. Bobby, I don't think it's an Achane Wright combo tonight. I would be a little surprised at that. I think it's going to be an Achane Jeff Wilson combo. Wright will mix in here and there, and I'm definitely excited for Jalen Wright for the long term. But it's week 2, and it's a division opponent. We saw Jeff Wilson get involved last week, and we've seen him be efficient in this offense before. I would be willing to bet that Wilson is the Dolphins' RB2 tonight, not Jalen Wright. Jalen Wright is a long-term hold, but I don't think tonight is the night for Jalen Wright. I don't think tonight is the night for Jalen Wright. It's on its way. His time is definitely coming, but I don't think it's tonight. Tony, you're welcome. Appreciate you coming in and hanging out. Appreciate everybody coming in, hanging out, whether you're asking questions, helping answer questions, which is always appreciated and absolutely encouraged. Share your opinion if you feel so inclined. Special shout out to my members, the guys that help keep the guys and gals that help keep the lights on around here. There are details about memberships in the first link in the description of this stream and all of the recent videos and streams on this channel if you are interested, but it's not necessary. I will be live again for Start Sit Help this weekend, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, so we can sort out the final thoughts for your starting lineup closer to the beginning of the Sunday slate when we have all of the information available to us, which means Friday practice reports. which are crucial. We need all the details that we can possibly get to ultimately help make the decisions for your starting lineup. So once we get through the Friday practice reports, we will have as much information as we can possibly have going into the weekend. So I do encourage you to come back if you have questions that pertain to Sunday, starts and questions that pertain to Sunday. I will be live over the weekend, Saturday in the evening, Sunday in the morning, prior to kickoff, helping sort out through the start sit questions. And I think that's it. I think I'm at the end of the chat. I don't know if any of my if anybody has any other questions. Jay, I know you just came in. Nemo, I know you just came in. If anybody has anything, happy to take them with about a half hour to go. 40 minutes to go. Crumply Heads, I did not forget about you. Appreciate you, dog. I will get to and I got there's a question in Discord. I got that. I will make sure that I take care of that one. So no, you are covered. You can also join the Discord if you're interested. I think that's the second link in the description of this stream. I should probably know my own setup a little better than that, but second link in the description of this stream. If you're interested in joining the Discord, that is an evergreen invite. Can talk shop over there. How long do I wait before thinking about making trades in redraft? Unless I feel like I completely messed up my draft, which does happen sometimes. If I'm coming out of the draft and maybe it's like week 1, week 2, and it's just like, this did not work, and what my plan was going in is clearly I don't know, not what I should have done, I might hit the panic button by week 3, but I'm generally looking to hold off on making trades in redraft until, I don't know, week 5 or 6 before I really start to assess my situation. I'm hoping ideally I'm at least 500 at that point. Obviously, we all want to be 5-0 or 6-0, or 5-1, or as good of a record as you possibly can have. But if you're treading water, if you're 3-3, 4-2 is obviously really good. Even if you're 2-4, maybe you've scored some points, you've just gotten a little bit unlucky. I don't want to panic too much with still plenty of time to get right during the season. But yeah, if I'm 500 or worse and I do feel like I need to shake things up and I need to make a move, that's around the time I might start looking. Week 5, week 6. Ideally, it's closer to mid-season, week 8, week 9, and it's out of maybe I need to, some help because of an injury. But I want to believe in my plan. I want to believe in my strategy that I went into the draft with, and with the pieces that I came out of the draft with. I want to believe in my process. I want to believe that the plan that I put into place, that the research that I did, that the homework that I did, that I don't forget any of that, even if I necessarily don't get off to the best of starts. The draft is my foundation. I want to hang my hat on that for as long as I possibly can. Even if I get off to an 0-2, 1-2, 1-3 start. Yes, that sucks. That's not where you want to be. But if it's just the course of if the results of maybe some bad luck or bad fortunes, and you still like what your team is giving you on a week-to-week basis, then I'm going to be inclined to hold and just hope for better days and hope for better outcomes. Week 5 or 6 is where I generally start maybe considering trades, unless, and again, this doesn't happen a ton, but it can happen. If after 2 or 3 weeks in, you're saying, I messed this up, I did not have a good draft, and it's coming to a head sooner than later, I need to make moves now. I really hope to avoid doing that, but maybe week 3, definitely not yet. Definitely not yet. I would need to be blown away with an offer, and that just that doesn't really happen the first couple weeks of the season. You have Jacobs, you have Taylor, you have that's a good collection of running backs. And in 10 team, no, because I wouldn't do anything, because Taylor looks like a bell cow. The reports are that Derrick Henry is going to have his workload managed by the Ravens this year. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's not any longer fantasy relevant, but there might be some weeks where it's like, oh man, Derrick Henry's like the Ravens are an underdog in this game and they might be playing from behind, which means Lamar's going to be running around and Justice Hill's going to be in there catching passes and Henry doesn't get his normal allotment of snaps and touches. You want to have a Brian Robinson, a Josh Jacobs to lean on as ancillary options and regular starters in their own right as well. Like Jacobs is going to get all the opportunity that he can handle for the next couple of weeks at least. Jordan Love is down. A.J. Dillon's gone for the season. Marshawn Lloyd is banged up. We're down to Emmanuel Wilson, who looked solid with his limited touches, but, Josh Jacobs might be a bell cow for at least a month. Brian Robinson looked great last week, and I think he cut into the receiving role that Austin Eckler was theoretically supposed to have. So no, I'm holding on to all those running backs. I'm starting 3 of them each week if I can, if it makes sense. I'm not moving those guys. I'm especially not now. Even if I lost last week, I'm like, that's a good collection of backs. That is a good stable of running backs that I can hang my hat on for the entire season. If something happens to one, I have 3 other dudes that I'm like, okay, I still have these guys to hang my hat on. I'm not looking to move any of them. I would need a significant upgrade at wide receiver to justify moving one of those guys, or maybe 2 of them for like an absolute stud of a running back. I don't know how many people you're going to get kicking the tires on a conversation like that. So no, I would say no. I like that stable of running backs. I'm hanging on until week 5, week 6, and I will reassess then if I think I need to. I'm not a big proponent of making trades before the first month of the season is over. Some people do. Some people make trades by week 3, week 4. I'm typically not one of those people. You might see me make a move week 6 or week 7, but not now. Not now. It's a good collection of running backs. I would just hang on to those guys. Actually, Crumply Heads, I don't see your I think you said you had one more screenshot for me. If I don't see it in Discord though, if you want to drop it in there. But the first 2 teams look good, look solid. Rest of season PPR stashes. So a lot of this depends on the starting running backs that you yourself have. Fantasy football is very much a game of like, if this, then that. If I have Rashad White, then Bucky Irving is way more valuable to me. If I have Travis Etienne, then Tank Bigsby is the number 1 stash of this group. If I have Breece Hall, then maybe I like some of these other guys a little bit more. But if I have Breece Hall, Braylon Allen is a top 2 stash in this list for me. If I have Devon Achane, or maybe more importantly, if I have Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright is way more valuable. Oh, it didn't start sit. Okay, I will. All right, I got you. But anyway, as standalones, I would probably say Bigsby is number 1. I do like Jalen Wright, so I'll maybe put him 2. I would probably put Bucky Irving 3, Braylon Allen 4, and then Davis 5, Lloyd 6, just because we haven't seen Lloyd yet. As standalone guys, I would say Bigsby 1, Jalen Wright 2, Bucky Irving 3. But if you have Breece Hall, then Braylon Allen is probably more valuable to you than anybody else in this list. If you have Raheem Mostert, then Jalen Wright is more valuable to you than anybody else in this list. So it depends on who you have as a starter. If you don't have any of those guys, then I guess I would say Tank Bigsby. He looked good. He looked good on Sunday. Jake, good to see you, man. Best of luck. I see your team, Crumbly Heads. Yeah, you're good. I don't think I would do anything here. I think I would play Tua over Stafford just because Tua has his starting wide receivers. He has Tyreek Hill, he has Jalen Waddle, whereas Stafford is operating without Puka Nacua. I'm fine. I'm fine with playing Tua over Stafford. That's good. Um, it's a little enticing because you have Cooper Kupp, so you could stack it up. But I don't. I think Tua is valuable enough where, as a standalone guy, he's worth starting over Stafford. Everything else looks solid. Everything else looks good. I like it. If Kenneth Walker sits out, maybe take Calvin Ridley out of your lineup, put Nico Collins in a wide receiver spot, and move Charbonnet in. That would be the one difference that would be the one thing I would do. But we have time on that one. So let's just keep tabs on Kenneth Walker's health, and go from there. But as of right now, it's fine. Let's see. Yeah, so I got Bobby's question. So Tank Bigsby would be the top standalone guy here for me, but if you have any of the starters from this group, then that handcuff is the most valuable to you. Burrow or Purdy? I guess Burrow, but I do not feel great about that. I guess Burrow, but I do not feel super good about Joe Burrow right now. I'll play him because over somebody like Brock Purdy because they both offer the same amount as on the ground as far as what you can expect from rushing totals between the two. Purdy obviously has his full complement of weapons. He has Debo, he has Ayuk, he has Kittle, whereas Burrow is down T. Higgins. But Burrow is the better quarterback, and this could be a shootout against Kansas City. So he's going to have to they're going to have to, I don't know. They're going to have to give him an injection or something, some pain relief with that wrist. And, hope for the best, essentially. I think you have to go Burrow. As far as Madison or Wilson for the flex, and I don't think I would include those wide receivers. I don't think I would. Is Downs play? What's Downs in practice? What are we doing here? Has he returned to practice? Limited in practice Thursday. Oh, that's good. That's good news. 2 consecutive limited sessions. That's great for Downs, but I don't think I want to play him this week. I think we need to see. I think we need to see a little bit more. Or we need to see anything at all from Josh Downs before we fire him up. So if you're between Madison and Wilson, I guess, dang. I do not like the Raiders on the road against the Baltimore Ravens. I am not a huge fan of that at all. I guess just maybe hope for the best with Jeff Wilson. Yes, Achane is playing, but he could be somewhat limited. I would roll the dice, I guess, with Jeff Wilson and hope for the best. I don't love it, but I do not like the Raiders having to go on the road and play the Baltimore Ravens. So I'm not in on Madison. I know he He had a good week last week. He caught a touchdown. That was great. I don't feel as good about that against the Baltimore Ravens. I'll take Wilson over Madison and those two wide receivers. It's a dart throw with Achane active, but with Mostert out, I would think Wilson has some regular involvement tonight at home. I'll take Wilson. And then would I start Goff, Tua, or Fields? It's between Goff and Tua. I just don't think Fields is there yet. Goff at home against Tampa Bay. There's nothing super scary about that matchup. Tua should be fine tonight. But I'll take Goff on a full week's rest at home. Slightly better matchup. Both guys have their full complement of weapons. Full complement of pass catchers anyway. And if Jameson Williams has emerged and and can be a consistent threat, then Detroit's top to bottom weapons, they're a little deeper than Miami. Obviously, Miami has the front, they're top heavy with Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs, and a consistent Jameson Williams, that's pretty damn good. I would say Goff over Tua tonight. I would say Goff. Yeah. I'll take Goff at home, not on a short week over Tua. Bobby, appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much. I do try to give you guys. I know that you may have to wait a little bit. You may have to be a little bit patient, but I do try to give you guys as much thought as I possibly can for your questions. So I appreciate you feel strongly about the channel. That's what makes me want to keep coming back and keep doing this and keep helping is the people who come in and think enough to take the time to hang out. So thank you. Appreciate everybody who came in tonight and hung out, talk shop. That's what it's all about. We are at the end of the chat. So if you catch me, if you maybe missed an answer to a question, you got me here for a couple more minutes. We are about to hit the top of the hour. Just a few, just 20 minutes or so before the start of Bills-Dolphins. So enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully, obviously, the scenarios go your way, whatever situation you may have ahead of you. If there are no last-minute questions about start, sit, help for tonight as it pertains to tonight's game, I will be back this weekend, Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, to help for any final start, sit questions you may have before the full Week 2 slate. So be sure to catch me then. You can also obviously ask questions in the form of a comment on any live stream, recent video that I've posted on the channel, and I can try to catch you there as well. But if there is nothing else, that will do it for this evening. Thank you guys again one last time for your time and hanging out tonight. Enjoy the game. Best of luck to the start of Week 2, regardless of whether you are rooting for or rooting against something to happen tonight. Hopefully it goes your way. And I will see you guys on Saturday. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night. Enjoy the game.